Cool. So I just opened this Appium course content in which we have studied about object identification concept, using which we finished about how can we identify the object properties using the new session feature. The next one is how can we identify object properties using an UI automator. Right. Using an UI automator also, we need to identify that particular object. So how can we identify that? Let's see this concept now. So, just a second. Okay. So, UI automator is a tool. Okay. UI automator is a tool using which we can identify any kind of object properties. Okay, using this particular UI automator, we can identify any kind of an object properties. Usually, this is a tool which will interact with the operating system. So in order to interact with the Android operating system, we are using this UI automator tool. Okay, so this is the tool which is used to communicate with the operating system. Okay, with the Android operating system. Okay, so the only thing what you need to do is here it is a tool which is used to communicate with the Android operating system. When we installed SDK, we'll get this tool. Okay, fine. To open this tool, navigate to the folder where SDK was installed and in which open the UI automator. So the folder is C users Surendra app data Android SDK and as well as the tools. So this is the folder part. We just need to navigate to that particular folder. Okay, in which you have an UI automator. Double click on that UI automator, which will take a couple of seconds to open up the UI automator tool. Okay, which will take a couple of seconds to open up. See, this is an UI automator viewer. Okay, this is an UI automator viewer. So, if you switch back to here, double click on the UI automator, this screen will display. Okay, so after that, here we need to identify the various kinds of configurations here. So the point out over here is using this tool we can capture various kinds of object properties. Okay, various kinds of an object properties using which we can capture with this particular one. Okay, we can capture the various kinds of an object properties using this particular tool. Fine. So, the another point is, how can we identify these properties? So, the simple point out over here is, within this UI automator, you have this feature, device screenshot. Click on the device screenshot. Automatically, it will capture the screenshot of the mobile device. So whatever the screenshot is there, it will capture that. For suppose, let me recapture my screenshot. Prior that, let me open my Visor app. See, okay. So this is the screenshot whatever I have on my mobile device. So I'm pressing on a home now. Okay. Now capture this screenshot. So this is my mobile screenshot. Okay. So in order to identify any particular object properties, see, hovering a mouse on that particular one here, it will display the node detail sections. It is displaying the text property, resource ID, package ID, and all these properties it is getting displayed. Okay, all these properties it is getting displayed. Fine. Okay, cool. Done up to here. So the another point out over here is, this one is having an index 0, 1, 2, 3, and the title is getting changed on this particular one, which is the text on that particular object, and then the class name is one and the same for all these objects. Okay, the class name is one and the same for all these objects. So here, so now just a second. I'm copying these screenshot capturing steps. Okay. So here, this is the thing. So once after we navigated to that particular folder, the only thing what exactly we need to do is to identify the object properties. Okay. So here on the new window, okay, on this particular window, here I'm just clicking on capture screenshot. Okay, so here I'm just doing only one thing, which is capture device screenshot. So here let me make a note. Open the desired object in the app. Open the desired application on the mobile device, and then once after we open that particular one on a mobile device, then okay, so once after we open this one, then click on capture screenshot in UI automator. Okay, click on a capture screenshot in an UI automator, which will capture the device screenshot. Okay, which will capture the device screenshot as below. Okay, so I don't think this is the actual. Okay, so which will capture the desired screenshot. So the next point of what we need to consider out over here is, okay, that's fine. So once it captured this screenshot, okay, so here this is how it will display. I'm capturing the screenshot and I'm updating here these running notes. So once it got a captured the screenshot, click on any object in the browser. It's displaying various kinds of object properties. Okay, it's displaying the various kinds of an object properties here. Okay, it's just displaying the various kinds of object properties here. These properties simply we can specify in our program. Okay, so these properties we can specify in our program. So here, if an object is having a text, we will give it as a name property. So here, please find below table how we are identifying those properties. How we are identifying those properties. So here, UI automator property Appium command. If the object is having resource ID, in the Appium we will use driver dot find element by dot ID. Okay, pass this resource ID as a command here. If this particular object is having a text property, and here we will pass driver dot find element by dot name. Simply pass that text here as a parameter. If the object is having a class, then driver dot find element by dot class name. Okay, driver dot find element by dot a class name. And then in order to capture multiple properties, use with the class name. So it means, so here I can use driver dot find elements by dot class name to identify multiple objects. Okay, so these are all the basic commands which we need to follow. Okay, so these are all the basic commands which we need to follow. If at all in the UI automator you have a resource ID, we can use a driver dot find element by dot ID. So if at all you are having some other property, then you need to use this one. Like this, the tabular representation will shows you with the various kinds of properties, whatever we have, what are all the commands we need to use, we are gonna specify here. Okay, what are all the commands we need to use, we are gonna specify here. Cool. Done up to here. Guys, is this point clear for everybody? Or do you have any questions for me on this? Okay, cool. Done up to here. So, Venkat, Divya, Manisha, is this point clear for you all?
Yes, yes.
Cool. So this is a simple point. So once we are done up to here, so we identified these properties. For suppose what it happened means, whenever I'm working on capturing these properties, so whenever you click on a device screenshot, sometimes it will throw an error message. Okay, sometimes it will throw an error message. Okay, what does it mean? What kind of an error message it will display? So why we are considering these error messages? Okay, so what exactly this particular stuff is? Okay, so let's see this particular one. Okay, so the simple point out over here is, so assume that whenever we are working on this particular one, unfortunately, my USB got disconnected. Okay, so USB got disconnected. Okay, my USB got disconnected. So how this is going to work? Okay, so my USB got disconnected. So whenever I'm trying to capture the screenshot, this time some kind of an error message, no Android devices were detected by ADB. So sometimes when we are trying to identify object properties, then we will get some error messages in UI Automator stating issues with the ADB. Okay, stating issues with the ADB. So first of all, we need to know what is a ADB, right? We need to know what exactly an ADB is and what is its significance, right? So Android debug bridge. ADB means it's an Android debug bridge. It's a command line tool that lets you communicate with a device. Okay, that lets you to communicate with a device, either an emulator or a connected Android device. Okay, so emulator means it's a virtual device. Okay, so fine. So the another point out over here is basically, okay, using this particular one, we can cross check whether the device was connected to, okay, using this one we can cross check whether the device was connected or not. Okay, using this one we can check out whether this one got installed or not. Okay, so this ADB is included. Okay, so let me make a note here. This ADB is included in the Android SDK platform tools package. So you no need to download it separately. Under the Android SDK tools here itself, it's gonna be there. Okay, so the another point is we no need to bother about how this is going to work. Okay, so how this is going to work. Usually the simple point of what we need to do is, generally mobile device should be connected with the USB. Okay, mobile device should be connected with an USB, and in the USB it should connect in USB debugging mode. The mobile should be connected in an USB debugging mode. That's it. Okay, so that's the most important thing. So this is the basic thing, guys. Okay, so this is the basic thing. So now what we are gonna do out over here is to check out. Okay, so once after you connected your device through USB, okay, to check out whether this ADB is there or not, I am using the first command, which is ADB not start server. So I am opening the command prompt, adb.exe space start underscore server. So clicking on this enter button is not displaying anything. So adb.exe space kill underscore server, and again let me start this server again. So whenever we started this server, see, this is gonna display starting it on a port of 5037. Okay, starting it on a port of 5037. Okay, so that's what it's getting displayed. Now the next point of what we need to do is, okay, so once after this one was started, see, let me highlight this one, how this is gonna looks like. Whenever this server was started, ADB, so I'm capturing the screenshot. See, whenever it was started, this is how it will looks like. So I'm capturing this instance and I am updating this instance in the running nodes. And then ADB kill server, which will kill the server. But once after this server got started, then the next point is adb dot, okay, adb.exe space devices. Whenever you clicked on the devices, it will display the list of connected devices. Okay, what are all the various devices connected to this particular machine? It will display them. So here it is displaying this as my device. Okay, so this is my device got connected here. Sometimes, okay, sometimes, okay, one second, adb.exe.devices. Okay, so it will list down all the devices and which we can recognize using this one. Okay, in some scenarios, what it will happen means, sometimes when we are trying to identify devices, it will throw some messages stating that there are no devices. In such cases, kill the ADB and restart it and then identify the devices. Okay, so whenever you are having such issues, okay, so kill that particular instance and then again reopen that particular server. Fine, done up to here. Once after we are done, so we can kill that particular server too. Fine, done up to here. So we have seen that, okay, so we have seen that we just connected this device and how this is going to work. Okay, cool. Once after we are done up to here, the only thing what you need to do is, while connecting mobile device, make sure that you are done with below settings on your mobile. Okay, so while connecting, make sure that you are done with the below settings. One is USB. Connect this one in an USB debugging mode. Connect it as a media transfer. So we no need to download this visor. Okay, so the next one is, okay, so once after we are done up to here, the next point of what we need to consider out over here is, I'm deleting all these stuff. I don't want these things. Okay, cool. So once after we are done up to here, using an UI automator, we can identify the properties and we can specify those properties whenever you are identifying. If any kind of an error message is encountered in an UI automator, how to handle that one also we have a study now. Okay, how to handle that particular one also we have a study now. Great. Okay, so if you look into this particular course content, we have locating by its resource ID, locating by its name, locating by its class name. We know all these are three things. We have studied that. Locating by its XPath. So there are a separate strategies for us in order to identify an object by its XPath. So here is the configuration which we need to implement for this XPath. So XPath is having its syntaxes. Okay, so XPath is having its own syntaxes. So just a second, let me check out those syntaxes here. Okay, here. So after these resource IDs, here is the syntax for XPath. See, in my running notes, I have already added these concepts. What I am doing just now means I am just arranging all these things in a proper order. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay, so I am arranging all these things in a proper order. That's it. Cool. Done up to here. So once after, see here, allow USB mode in this computer like this screenshot, you need to add it. Okay. Okay. So the error message might occur as unable to identify the device information. Okay, such kind of a message will display here. Cool. Cool. So done up to here, guys. So let's see in detail about this XPath, whatever we have added. Okay, you know that XPath is a type of a properties using which we can identify any kind of an object. For suppose, if an object is having a class and a text attribute, how can we write down an XPath means / a class name, open braces at the rate text is equal to text we need to specify. The same way, if an object is having a resource ID and a digit, in such a cases, this is how we need to write down an XPath. So if an object is having a class, a text and as well as a resource, like this we need to write down an XPath. So here we have given the various kinds of syntaxes. How can we write down an XPath on a particular object? Okay, so using these XPaths, we can identify the properties and we can specify the operation. We will see this XPath with an example moving further. Okay, we will see this with this XPath moving further with an examples. Okay, fine. Done up to here. So I have studied the key concepts of object identification. And the next one is, how can you share your screen on your machine? Okay, right. How can we share our device screen on your machine? I think in the last class we have already covered about this one, which is, in order to share the device screen, we need to install this Visor app. Right, we need to install this Visor app in order to share your screen. Okay, so sharing mobile on a PC. So I'm adding that particular point here. After these object identification and other things, so I'm just specifying that a concept here. The Visor concept what we have discussed. See, we do have too many apps using which we can share our mobile screen. Okay, okay, share our mobile screen onto the real device. Okay, so whatever the mobile screen is there, that particular screen, see, using this Visor app, we can see out over here itself. So the ultimate point out over here is Visor is a Chrome extension. So on a Mac OS also we do have a Chrome extension, Chrome browser. So it means using this tool, Visor tool, we can handle it on both the Android and as well as an iOS devices also. So this is a tool using which we can share our screen for both the Android and as well as an iOS too. Okay, we can share the screen for both the Android and as well as an iOS too. So even we have studied how to install this Visor to our mobile device, how to install this Visor to our laptop, Chrome browser, and how to identify the device screenshot. We just performed in the last class. Okay, we just studied this concept in the last class. And even if you observe, download Android platforms with an SDK manager. To perform these things, the only thing what we need to do is open the command prompt and enter Android. It will display the SDK manager tool from which we have selected the latest, the second latest Android version, and we installed all the required things. Right, my latest version is an 8. I'm installing Android 7, and for our better understanding purpose, I'm selecting Android some other version too, Android this version. And after that, in the extras folder, we need to install certain add-ons, and I click on a final install button, which will be installing all the required packages. So once after we are done with the Android SDK manager, we already covered this Android SDK manager. So how can we create virtual devices using this Android? So this is the next and a most important point which we need to know. How can we create virtual devices? Okay, virtual devices. Virtual devices in Android, we can also call it as an emulators. Virtual devices in a Mac, we can call it as a simulators. So how can we create a virtual devices? So it means we can run our scripts either on a real device or on an virtual device too. Okay, we can run this one either on a real device or else we can run it on an virtual device too. Okay, so to run it on a virtual device, first we need to know how can we create a new device. Okay, how can we create a new device? The various steps in order to create a new device are, the first one is navigate to the folder where your SDK was installed. Okay, navigate to the folder where SDK was installed. In the current scenario, it's there in C, users, Surendra, app data, local, Android and SDK. Below is the path. From where what I would like to do means click on, okay, from this particular location, click on AVD Manager. Click on AVD Manager. So AVD means Android Virtual Device Manager. So here using this particular one we can control these virtual devices. So let me capture this screenshot and double click on that. Okay, so here double click on that AVD Manager. Okay, so let me capture this screenshot here. So this is the AVD Manager which we need to get it. So I'm capturing this screenshot and I'm updating here in our running. That's it. So whenever we captured this one, see Android virtual devices screen got displayed here. Once after you performed a double click operation, this is how the Android virtual device got displayed. Then below screen will display. So this is the screen it's gonna display for us. From where for me I have already created an Android device, okay, for which I have already created an Android device, whereas for us we can create a new device too. So click on create a button. Click on create button. So in this case I'm just editing this one for our instance. Edit. So here initially we need to give AVD name. I'm giving it as Surendra emulator. Okay, so here give a name to the emulator. Okay, give a name to that particular emulator. Select which type of a device you want to create. See here, I would like to create, okay, a Nexus 1 mobile. So that's completely up to your wish. Whatever the mobile phone you want, you can select that particular mobile device. It's gonna create that particular mobile device. And here target operating system. Okay, so here one with the Android SDK manager I have installed API 24 which is an Android 7, hence it is displaying as an target Android 7 itself. So here in the target select desired Android version. In an earlier session or a previous session we installed Android SDK with latest version and previous version also. Hence in the drop down it will display both Android versions, select one from them. Okay, so as of now I have installed only one thing, hence I am using this one. So here I am leaving CPU as a one and the same, and the skin I am leaving it as a one and the same. Okay, so here leave CPU skin as one and the same. Okay, leave CPU skin as the one and the same. Based on your requirement, increase the RAM and as well as an internal storage size. Based on our need, increase the RAM and internal storage size. And finally, click on a save button. So fill all these information. Here, click on this OK button. So here, this is how it's gonna looks like. So whenever you are trying to create a new AVD, this is gonna display in this way. So here, copy the whole thing and update here. Click on a save oblique OK button. That's it. So whenever we created clicked on an OK, here the device of whatever we have created, okay, so the device whatever we have created will display in an AVC manager list. Okay, so here now the device created will display in the AVD manager list. Okay, that device will display here in an AVD manager list. So based on our need, so here select the desired device, select desired device and click on start button to launch the emulator. See here, I'm clicking on this start button. So whenever it is trying to launch, it will gives you a launch options. Click on launch button on the launch options pop up. Okay, click on a launch. Okay, it will take few minutes to create an emulator. In the middle, it will ask for some confirmations. Click on OK button. That's it. It will ask for certain confirmations. So click on OK button. Again, click on an OK button. So this is how, see, Android emulator got created and this is displaying like this. This is the Android emulator. See, Android, it means it's starting this one. Okay, so here to get complete a device, it will take some more time. Just stay till the device got loaded. Okay, till the device got loaded, just stay there itself. So it will take some time. So and here these are all the various kinds of an options which we can control these device. Okay, which we can control this device. These are all the various kinds of an options whatever we have. Cool. Done up to here. Great. Am I clear for everybody so far, or do you have any specific questions for me, guys? Guys, is this point clear for everybody, or do you have any specific questions for me on this? Cool. Kaush, Venkat, Divya, Sri Divya, and then Manisha. Am I clear for you all? So usually the thing is, in the real time, we usually work on a real devices itself. So we are not gonna work any kind of an emulators. We usually go with the real devices, but at least we need to know how can we work on an emulators too. For that reason, we are creating these virtual device. It might take some more time to load these devices. And even while loading also here in this Android emulator screen, it will throw some messages stating that it is taking too much time. Do you want to quit this application or do you want to wait? Don't select any operations. Okay, don't select any operations. You can click on a wait from that particular emulator, which will wait until the complete device got loaded. The whole thing will depend on a system itself, the system memory and all those things. Done. So this is the way how can we create an emulators. Okay, so this is the way how can we create an emulators here. Fine. So the next and the most important point out over here is, can we use the pointer to use any can we use the pointer to any options on an Android? Yeah, of course, you can create any options. So here I just selected the Nexus one based on your need. You can select any device. It's not mandatory for us to select only the device whatever I have created. Whenever you are practicing, you can create your own device. That's not a problem. Okay, so in the next class, we are going to start about Appium basic commands with respect to API reference, what is the desired capabilities, how can we identify a package name and as well as an activity name, and as well as basic commands we have in this particular Appium we are going to study in our tomorrow's class. So this would be the most important concept for us, okay, which we are going to study. Okay, isn't responding, close this app or wait. So whenever you click on a wait or leave this screen, in another few minutes, this Android emulator will display for us. Okay, it will take a few more minutes to load this particular one, but this is how. So process isn't responding. So close this app or you want to wait. So just you don't need to select any options. So it's gonna load this emulator in a few more minutes. Or click on a wait. See, if you observe, the emulator got loaded in a backend now. See, the device got loaded. See, the device got loaded for me. So here, this is my Android, and clicking on a menu, it will display the various kinds of an options for me. The calculator, camera, API demos, and all those things I got it here. So the calculator function, everything was there on this. So I can use this home button, anything, whatever I want, I can perform these operations here. Okay, so this is the thing, how can we connect and how can we create and use an emulators, Android emulators. Let me capture this screenshot and update this screenshot in the running notes. Okay. Okay, cool. Once the emulator got created, below screen will display for us. This is an emulator screen. Okay, this is an emulator screen. So we can perform all these operations. Cool. Done up to here, guys. So we'll see you again in tomorrow's class. Thank you.